The ground forces push further into Gaza City, deepening pressure on Hamas around its command center under Al-Shifa hospital. This is with IDF infantry and tanks on the ground, tightening the circle around the terrorist leadership. More on day 32 of the Hamas war in this report by Steve Leibovich.
Day 32 of the war with Hamas and IDF troops pushed further into the Gaza Strip and are reaching close to the terrorists' main command center under Al-Shifa hospital. Airstrikes have been pounding the area around Al-Shifa, and buildings in the hospital complex have reportedly been hit. The army is continuing to target the Hamas underground tunnel network, and intensive strikes are continuing against all Hamas military capabilities.
אנחנו חודש כבר במלחמה, פוגעים מאוד מאוד קשה בחמאס, פוגעים בהנהגה של חמאס, פוגעים במפקדים, פוגעים במחבלים, הורסים לחמאס את התשתיות בעזה, ואנחנו גם כל הזמן במוכנות לאזורים אחרים.
The army has already managed to cut Gaza in two and encircle Gaza City. The goal is now to deepen the pressure on Gaza City and the Hamas leadership in underground bunkers. A number of top Hamas commanders were killed in recent days, and the army says that the terrorist group's ability to carry out counterstrikes is severely limited.
סיימתי כעת אישורי תוכניות נוספים לכוחות צה"ל ברצועת עזה. מה שקורה ביממה האחרונה זה דבר מרשים מאוד מבחינת הפעולה של צה"ל. שילוב בין כוחות האוויר לכוחות היבשה מרעיד את רצועת עזה. המאמצים האלה מביאים להישגים בלתי רגילים, לפגיעה במחבלים וגם בדרג של מפקדי השדה.
According to the army, Israeli forces operating in northern Gaza located several rocket launchers and more than 50 rockets located next to a mosque in a compound used by the Palestinian Scouts Association. 50 empty rocket launchers were aimed at Ashkelon or central Israeli cities. 6 ambulances carrying wounded Palestinians arrived in Egypt through the Rafah crossing. The exit of foreigners from Gaza is expected to resume today after Hamas tried to sneak its fighters out of Gaza in ambulances that evacuated dozens of wounded Palestinians to Egypt last week. Palestinians are using the humanitarian corridor opened yesterday by the IDF to evacuate from northern Gaza to its south for their safety.
The battle in Gaza is complex, very densely populated, a whole complex of underground tunnels. But Israel's military forces are strong and resilient. And joining us now on that complexity is Senior Fellow at FDD, Brigadier General Reserves Professor Yakov Nago. Yakov, so first of all, how is Israel progressing? Has it achieved many of its targets now?
First of all, you described it very good. We have a very dense and complicated situation in Gaza. And I'm really glad that the IDF, with the orders of the government and the cabinet, is doing, as of now, exactly what it needs. Meaning, they are keeping the fog, they are keeping that not everything is known to the public. They are surrounding the Gaza center, meaning this is the center for the real barbarians and terrorists of the Hamas. They have command posts. Some people are talking about hospitals. They are not hospitals, some of them anymore. And unfortunately for the people of Gaza, they are command posts of the Hamas leadership. So what the IDF is doing now, not what the Hamas expected him to do and preparing for him some surprises. IDF is not entering the tunnels unless there is a special place and a special intelligence mostly connected to the hostages. We are not going into traps. We are eating them very hard. We eating their command post. Just to give you numbers, until now we killed 4 of their, I call it the civilian part of the Hamas, 4 out of 11 leaders of the civilian Hamas leadership. We killed 1 brigade commander, 14 battalion commanders, something like 35, 40 platoon commanders, and about between 2,000 to 3,000 terrorists have been killed. Those that we know, because there are many under the tunnels, inside the tunnels, and under buildings. So this is what we are doing now, and it will be done, continuously done, and it's good that we have the support of the United States and Europe and everyone else that understands that Hamas cannot stay. It will be done, it will be continued until they will totally, fully fulfill the mission that the cabinet gave them. It's meaning no more Hamas in Gaza, no more Hamas militarily, the military part of Hamas, the governmental part and the organizational part, killing all of his leaders, no matter where they are, because some of them, they are very coward. So some of them already fled out from Gaza, maybe to Rafah, maybe even outside. I'm talking about also those that are in Doha or in Beirut, 6, 7, 8 names. They should be like FBI or CIA is doing a top 10 wanted. So you will put a wanted on their head. It will be written wanted, dead or dead.
Yes, we're seeing that. Now, when will Israel be able to say that it has achieved its goals? What about Hamas leadership abroad, as you mentioned?
The answer is very simple. Israel will achieve its goal that was set by the cabinet only when there is no Hamas in Gaza, when all its leaders are dead, not only those that are in Gaza. But again, some of them, it can take time. All of them are dead. Sinwar, Def, Ania, Mashal, Al-Aruri, Abu Marzouk, and I can give you the top 10. They are dead. They know that they are living now on a borrowed time. They will be dead. Everyone that was participating in the massacre will be dead. If not today or tomorrow or next week, then next month, maybe next year. We have a database with all of their pictures. They are dead.
Yakov, yes, thank you so much for joining us today and to Better Times.
Thank you very much. And we are crossing our hands for our soldiers. Everyone that is giving his life is a sacred one. Unfortunately, in a war, some people are dead, but this is what we need to do for the safety of the state of Israel and also for the safety of Jews every place in the world. We are fighting also for them, because if Israel is weak, then they are weak in every place they are there. So they are watching and they are praying not only for us, but also for them. It's very important.
Thank you.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple.
Now, Israel will have the overall security responsibility for Gaza in the post-war period. That's the word from Prime Minister Netanyahu, who told ABC News that after the war ends, Israel will have to retain security control for what he called an indefinite period. And ILTV's Devo Klein reports.
Prime Minister Netanyahu told ABC News that without security control in Gaza, Hamas was able to attack Israel to a scale we could not imagine.
President Biden has said that it would be a mistake for Israel to occupy Gaza. Who should govern Gaza when this is over?
Those who don't want to continue the way of Hamas. It certainly is not. I think Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have the overall security responsibility, because we've seen what happens when we don't have it. When we don't have that security responsibility, what we have is the eruption of Hamas terror on a scale that we couldn't imagine.
In his most recent call with President Biden, the subject of a humanitarian pause was discussed. Netanyahu told a group of foreign diplomats in Jerusalem that there would be no ceasefire until all the hostages are released.
Well, there will be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here, an hour there, we've had them before. I suppose we'll check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods to come in, or our hostages, individual hostages to leave. But I don't think there's going to be a general ceasefire. It's not that I think it will hamper the war effort. It'll hamper our effort to get our hostages out.
CIA Director William Burns was in Israel and will meet intelligence officials in Qatar to continue efforts to release hostages. Speaking to a group of foreign diplomats in Jerusalem, Netanyahu said there was no alternative to total victory over Hamas.
The paramount need is to defeat this axis. That battle is now being waged by us against Hamas in Gaza. There is no substitute for victory. We will defeat Hamas. We will dismantle Hamas.
The IDF is carrying out airstrikes against sites belonging to Hezbollah terror group in southern Lebanon. This is in response to some 30 rockets fired on northern Israel. And ILTV's Steve Leibovich has more.
The Gaza-based Hamas terror group claimed responsibility for firing a barrage of 30 rockets from Lebanon at northern Israel. 16 rockets targeted Nahariya, Haifa, and nearby towns. Rocket sirens sounded in the northern community of Shtula and set off sirens in the upper Galilee. After the attack, the IDF launched extensive reprisals on Hezbollah targets in South Lebanon. While Hamas claimed responsibility, Israel holds Hezbollah directly responsible for any rocket fire from southern Lebanon. The Iron Dome air defense system intercepted rockets that were fired. There were no reports of injuries or damage. 63 Hezbollah terrorists have been killed in Israeli reprisals during the 3 weeks of cross-border exchanges. An unreported number of Hamas-affiliated terrorists in Lebanon have also been killed. The northern city of Kiryat Shmona is urging any remaining residents to leave as it continues to be targeted by rockets from Lebanon. The municipality issued a statement saying, "Leave the city immediately and save lives." The vast majority of the city's 20,000 or so residents have already left amid attacks by Hezbollah and other terror groups, and an estimated 3,000 remain in their homes. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, there are signs of pushback against Hezbollah. Lebanon's top Christian cleric is demanding that Hezbollah halt attacks on Israel.
Jews aren't safe anywhere. I'm incredibly sad and scared to say this, but it has to be said out loud. In a tragic turn of events, a 69-year-old Jewish man has been killed near a pro-Palestinian protest in northwest Los Angeles. In a heartbreaking turn of events, a 69-year-old Jewish man named Paul Kessler has tragically passed away following an altercation at a pro-Palestinian protest in Los Angeles. The altercation occurred in Thousand Oaks, a city northwest of Los Angeles, where reports of a battery led law enforcement to find Kessler with a head wound. According to witness accounts, Kessler was attacked in a physical confrontation with counter-protesters, during which he fell and struck his head on the ground. A video of the aftermath shared on social media showed Kessler lying on his back on the corner of the intersection with blood dripping from his head. The Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles issued a statement expressing their devastation and solidarity with the victim's family, emphasizing the need for safety and condemning violence against the community, saying, "We demand safety. We will not tolerate violence against our community. We will do everything in our power to prevent it." Kessler's death has sparked mourning and alarm in Southern California's Jewish community, with some leaders and public officials expressing outrage. As of now, no arrests had been made, and the investigation remains ongoing. Meet Mea Mevi, a vibrant young woman, former student of diplomacy and chemistry, and a dedicated tennis player and peace activist, was violently abducted to Gaza 1 month ago. The video surfaced on October 7 shows Naama in distress and pain. The video shows Naama being taken away in a Hamas vehicle while handcuffed and bleeding. She was abducted during her service at the Nahal Oz base soon after completing an observation course. Her friends describe her as a good friend, strong, true to herself, and someone who can always bring a smile upon their faces. Just look at her happy and dancing. Don't let her out of your heads and prayers. We have to bring her home. The Jerusalem municipality illuminated the old city's walls, marking 1 month since the abduction of 246 Israelis by Hamas, underscoring the nation's resilience and unwavering hope for the safe return of the hostages. And ILTV's William Sharon with a powerful display.
The old city walls were illuminated on Monday night, marking 1 month since the harrowing abduction of 246 Israelis by Hamas. The event also included a memorial service at the Western Wall, where candles were lit to honor the victims. As 1,400 candles flickered in memory of those who were lost, grieving family members took turns reciting psalms. The ceremony composed prayers for the State of Israel, the Israeli Defense Force, and the hostages held by Hamas. Rabbi Shmuel Rabinovich, the chief rabbi of the Western Wall, emphasized the significance of the candles, each representing an entire world, and the hope that they would collectively light a path towards a brighter future. IDF Chief Cantor Shai Abelson offered a special rendition of the El Malachei Rachamim prayer, and the ceremony concluded with the singing of Im Yeshachech Yerushalayim and the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva. Benny Gantz, member of the Israeli War Cabinet, represented the government at the memorial event, paying tribute to the resilience of the nation in the face of adversity. During the ceremony, the Jerusalem municipality projected images of the hostages onto the walls of the old city, conveying their heartfelt desire for the safe return of those held captive. Jerusalem Mayor Moshe Leon conveyed a powerful message saying, "We hope and pray for a quick return of the hostages. We are all waiting for you."
The Rashi Foundation, a long-standing advocate for bolstering Israeli society and advancing equal opportunities, has swiftly mobilized to provide critical support to those impacted by the ongoing war. And Al-TV's Devo Klein with more.
The Rashi Foundation is taking immediate action to support those affected by the war. For nearly 4 decades, this private and independent foundation has been committed to bolstering Israeli society and advancing equal opportunities, particularly in education, welfare, and employment, especially in underprivileged regions. In light of the state of emergency in Israel today, the Rashi Foundation, together with thousands of dedicated employees and numerous partners, is fully engaged in the development and implementation of educational and emotional therapy initiatives. From assisting those displaced in evacuation centers to strengthening the resilience of municipalities in the centers of the war zones, the Rashi Foundation is geared to help. The Rashi Foundation strives to provide an optimal, comprehensive, and flexible response that will reach directly to the populations and authorities that need it. This leading to the establishment of a dedicated emergency fund, investing all of its resources toward these purposes.
So we got to hear about the Rashi Foundation, and to learn some more, I have Head of Partnerships at the Rashi Foundation, Lorna Simon, here with me in studio. Lorna, great having you here with us. Have I pronounced your name right?
You have.
Great.
Thanks so much for having me.
Our pleasure. We heard so much about Rashi doing amazing work, not only during times of crisis, during times of war. What can you tell us about the main challenges you have at Rashi?
The main challenges at Rashi usually are helping the periphery balance the scales by creating opportunities in education, in social involvement, and all kinds of different ways to help create social mobility in the periphery. Today, since October 7, Rashi's been working overtime in emergency mode, and we've been evaluating the situation, mapping, and very, very quickly running on the ground with our feet in many different directions to try and deal with the human crisis at hand.
What are you really doing to deal with all the issues? I mean, the actions you're taking these days to really help with it?
So there are 200,000 refugees. There are approximately 50,000 children in those 200,000 refugees. And Rashi already, in just 1 month, has brought a framework to at least 20,000 of those children in many different ways. We've separated into categories. So for the youngest children, aged 0 to 6, we've created mobile development units. And it's basically like a gymboree in a hotel room, in
where they are,
a conference room. And we've staffed them with a very, very experienced and extensive team of staff, including physical therapists, psychologists, speech therapists, communication therapists, occupational therapists, all in there walking around watching the children behave. They can observe and they can immediately bring intervention in whatever therapy that they see is needed for those kids. The stories are just horrendous. It's unfathomable what tiny, beautiful, innocent children, or anyone, of course, for that matter, but these kids, imagine a 4-year-old who saw his mother grab a knife to try and protect the family, and whose father jumped on top of him to try and protect him from terrorists. This 4-year-old is going to need a lot of different services. There's a lot of behavioural regression. There's a tremendous amount of bedwetting that's taking place now and occurring in kids of elementary school age, older ages that shouldn't be, at that point in their development. Some children are mute, have not spoken since October 7 and need intervention. And of course, everyone else has the same very, very worrisome sense of uncertainty and a lack of hope for their future. And what the Rashi Foundation wants to do is create a framework for them to have somewhere to go during the day that is catered to their particular development standard and needs, and who has madrachim and counselors and teachers and staff and psychologists and a very full array of professional staff who are there for them to help them.
And really incredible. You know, if I may tell you like a personal story, I went volunteering last week at one of the hotels when, you know, with displaced families from Netiv HaSara, and there was this one girl, they needed their phone for the activity we had for them, and she didn't have her phone with her, she had her mom's phone, and I asked her, where's your phone? She was like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, most kids in Israel have their phones from a very young age, and she told me, my phone isn't where the war is. We didn't take it, so it's really crazy to see now. Lorna, I want to ask you, from what I understand, the foundation is currently facilitating temporary education and trauma therapy for 25,000 people, right? Is that right? I mean, a logistical pretty much nightmare. Are you ready to deal with it? How are you dealing with it right now? How is it possible?
This is actually Rashi's expertise. We're very, very good at readjusting. We're very flexible, very agile. We've got a very deep 40 years worth of relationships with local councils in all of Israel's periphery. And together with the local councils, we're able to create temporary solutions for all of these people. Relatively easy. Well, it's still an incredible nightmare, an incredible challenge. It's not a nightmare by any means, and we do it with full hearts, and we go there every day with tremendous sense of purpose and service. Yes. I just wanted to add, you know, I didn't finish talking about the younger children. There's a lot of violence, even among younger children, that's manifesting now.
Inside the hotels?
Inside the hotels, and a lot of regressive behaviour on many different levels. So that's the mobile units. We also have holistic education centres for children who are in elementary school. And that provides a framework for them, also a little bit of education, but most importantly, I think what it really gives them is a sense of community and a sense of support and a sense that they're there together, they're surviving this together, and there is hope. At the end of the road, there are people who care about them, and frameworks. Something very, very important that happens at the same time as we provide the framework for these children is it gives the parents a reprieve. They are exhausted on every single possible level, and they've had no time to digest for themselves where they are, what's gone on, where are they heading, and their own uncertainty, of course, is debilitating for their families and for their kids. Imagine them, all these families are in one hotel room together for such a long amount of time.
I know.
In these circumstances, not having their lives in front of them. They've been pulled away from their lives, from their homes, from their beds, from their friends, from their schools, from their every activity that they've been part of. And it's very, very important that they have a routine, and this is what we're providing. One of the other things that we're very, very proud of that we did starting last week is we created a youth centre in Eilat. In Eilat alone, there are 7,000 teenagers.
Wow.
And many of them are taken to the streets at night and engaging in very negative behaviour. That is a big, big concern.
Lorna, I think there's so many other things we'll have to deal with after, because now everyone's dealing with who's dead, and of course that's the most important thing, but so many things we'll have to deal with. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Very welcome, thanks so much.
And we recommend everyone to know you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mit, bye.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies expected tonight throughout the country with lows of around 17 degrees Celsius or 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, sunny skies and rising temperatures set to reach highs of 29 degrees Celsius or 84 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channel, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and of course, do not forget to check out our new and improved website, ILTV.tv, with all of the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Amit. Stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.